Hello everyone, my name is Ravi Padmanav and I'm going to be your host for today. First of all, a very happy new year and I wish that you had a very safe and enjoyable time with your family. I'm very excited to invite you to the first finance meetup. Today with us we have Aniket Tendulkar who is from MuleSoft. He will be introducing us to MuleSoft's Accelerator for Financial Services and will be sharing his experience on working with different financial customers. As you see on the slide, this meeting would be recorded, so kindly be aware of that. And I'd appreciate if you can introduce yourself in the chat. Just mention your name, company, role, location, and experience, and that would really help us provide you a right content and customize our content during the presentation. With that being said, feel free to leverage the chat option to raise all your questions at any point during this conversation. We would be responding to those questions over the chat, as well as we would be answering them during our session. Without any further ado, let's start with our agenda for today. We would kick off this meeting with the introduction of the speaker. And then, as this is the first financial meetup event that is happening today, we talk a little bit about what this meetup means, what to expect from this meetup, and what are the different upcoming events from this meetup. Once it is discussed, I would be handing over it to Aniket to talk about the Accelerator for Financial Services. As a part of this introduction, you'll be covering what accelerators are, how different is a financial services accelerator, and he would be covering three different use cases. One, customer account sync. Second, customer onboarding. And third, core banking. We would also talk about how to extend this existing accelerator. Then you'll be discussing about the accelerator roadmap, that what is the priority for the financial year FY23. And we have reserved a special slot to take up question and answers. Aniket will be responding to all the questions that have been posted via chat or question and answer section. As usual, we have a trivia and a quiz round where we give out three different vouchers for the person who correctly responds to the questions. So I know most of the people are looking forward to that. So we do have that round as well. And finally, we would wrap it up with the upcoming events as well as a little bit about the feedback that we want to gain from you guys. So with that, let's get started with the introduction. So those of you who don't know me, I am Ravi Padmanawar. I'm a customer success architect. I'm a part of the customer success strategy and architecture team here at MuleSoft. I have more than 18 years of IT experience, mostly working with the financial services customers like banking, insurance, like capital market, etc. And I also have some experience working with the healthcare domain. Out of these 18 years of experience, 5+ years I've worked as a MuleSoft architect, and I've been associated with the MuleSoft company for the last 1 year. In fact, I would be celebrating my 1 year this month itself. Apart from that, I have a few MuleSoft certifications, as well as I'm a LOMA certified. Those who don't know what LOMA is, it's a Life Office Management Association. I'm LOMA FLMI 1 certified way back in 2007, 2008. Most of the things I don't even remember now. But that was also, that's when my interest in banking and financial services industry grew. And so from that point onwards, I've been associated with this particular domain. Apart from that, I have been an organizer for Baltimore Meetup group as well. So please show your love and support, and for that group as well, where we cover a lot of different technical subjects and know-hows, etc. So feel free to watch out for the new events that are coming up through the Baltimore Meetup group. I'm currently based out of Washington, D.C. However, in the past, I have lived in California as well as in the Illinois region. One interesting fact about me is that I love a lot of board games, puzzles, as well as card games. So that's what I usually do during my free time with my family. With that, I'll hand over to Aniket to introduce himself.
Thank you, Ravi. Firstly, Happy New Year to all. It's great to see such participation and excitement for the Fins accelerators. So really excited and proud to be one of the speakers today for this particular session. Thanks for the opportunity. So something about myself, I have overall 20 years of IT experience and I've been with MuleSoft for a little over 3 years now. We'll complete 4 years now in the month of June. It's a long journey. I've spent time with multiple accounts, strategic accounts, large accounts within MuleSoft, and I have experience widely across multiple house projects, right? And I've worked with multiple banking, finance, insurance, and securities companies as well throughout my career. So I have wealth of experience to speak about a specific domain as well. Currently, I am the senior technical architect within MuleSoft and playing a lead role in one of the large engagements for MuleSoft. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, and being residing here for the past 3 years now. So that's pretty much about me. Thanks. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Aniket, and thanks for being a part of this particular meetup. I appreciate you contributing to this meetup.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the safe harbor statements. We would like to know that both myself and Aniket are organizing this meetup in our individual capacity. Even though we are from MuleSoft, we are not representing our company here. This presentation is strictly for the learning purposes alone. Myself and organizer, as well as the organizers and Aniket, don't hold any guarantee or responsibility. The same solution would work for you in a case because every requirement, every use case could be different. This presentation is again meant only for the promotional activities. And for everyone's knowledge, this meeting has been recorded and will be shared on the same event page, so they can go ahead and look for the recording as well as the slides. So don't worry if you miss anything. Okay. Now, because this is the first time we are holding a finance meetup, let's talk about what this meetup is and what to expect out of this particular meetup. So first, let's speak about the objectives of this meetup. Why did we come out with an industry-specific meetup group, whereas we have more than 40 plus different meetups that are happening across the world? So how is this one different, and what are these objectives? So first thing is that it provides you a platform to discuss various finance industry specific latest trends, the challenges that the organization is facing, both within and outside of the organization, the different opportunities that lay in front of the organization, and the technical solutions around the enterprise integration platform. Second, you can gain a lot of knowledge from the industry experts' thought leadership. Their personal experiences, insights, outlook would not only help you avoid the most common pitfalls, but also help you excel in your transformational journey. Third, it brings the like minded technical as well as business folks with a common goal to share knowledge and gain expertise in the finance domain. During these meetups, we'll be talking about insurance domain, we'll be talking about banking, wealth management, capital market, and many more. And finally, we expect that it will help individuals and organizations to help their personal as well as professional goals through these educational sessions and evangelizing. Okay. Next up. So what is the real focus of this particular meetup? Is it going to be exactly same like the other meetup that happened? In short, the answer is no. This is going to be a different kind of a meetup. Most of the time, you'll be focusing on financial business use case. We'll be talking again, as I mentioned, about the challenges, the concerns, and where the industry is moving. And with aspect of that particular business use case, then we'll be diving into the technical solution. Now, please remember that technical solutions may or may not be part of these presentations. However, it is recommended that speaker comes up with that kind of a background as well and provides more and more insight on how to solve those business use cases. As you see over here, these sessions could start from a business use case and then deep dive into the technical solutions, or they could start with the technical solutions and then tie it down to what business use case they have been leveraged for. Nonetheless, the point here is that the business use case would have equal priority as a technical solution, if not more than that. Next up is in what format would this financial meetup would be executed? There are two different modes. The first is a presentation mode. This is just like any other technical meetup. Here, the speaker will be delivering the session via presentation, and then the speaker will be discussing or demoing a technical solution. You might even go into some part of the code to help the audience understand better of what solution has been developed and how it has been developed. And finally, it would be addressing any business or technical questions. The one that we are conducting today falls under the presentation mode. Apart from that, we also have a mode which is delivered in two different flavors. The first is where a moderator like myself or my team members would be interviewing the panelists, a group of industry experts. And the second would be a fireside chat between the different panelists. In both of these flavors, there'll be a time allocated at the end for the audience to ask any questions. So that's in short about what this financial meetup is about and what to expect out of it. Now, if there are any questions around this financial meetup group, I can take those questions before I hand it over for Aniket to start with the MuleSoft Accelerator for Financial Services. So let me look at the chat quickly and see if there are any questions. Okay. So far, there are no questions here. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise them in the chat. Use the Q&A section for that, and I'll be responding throughout this session. Or you can ask in the end as well. So with that, I hand over it to Aniket to talk about MuleSoft Accelerator for Financial Services. Over to you, Aniket.
Thank you, Ravi. Thanks. So I think the slide that Ravi presented one before this, right, wherein he showed the amalgamation of the business versus the technical functionality, that is a very important slide, and that's what's going to create a very good segue into this discussion further, right? So just for context, and Ravi, if you don't mind going to the next slide, I'm assuming that everyone on this call is aware of what MuleSoft is and what MuleSoft offers to our customers, right? It's playing a dominant role in the integration API management space today. This accelerators that we are referencing is not a new product or is not a new connector that we have introduced. This is something which solves a business problem, a use case problem, right? And that's where the slide from Ravi is very important. It provides or understands a solution for an existing business problem that we have seen time and time over and over with working with multiple of our financials, banking, and insurance customers, right? So all the information that we have learned over a period of time is matured and evolved, and that has translated into this kind of accelerators. So what was the overall thought process or background for us to start working on this accelerator model? Over a period of time, we kept getting questions from multiple different customers like, does MuleSoft have any pre-built assets or solutions? What is the prior experience of MuleSoft working with a similar kind of a large banking customer or a small medium customer? What is the experience that we have gained, and how we can replicate that experience from one customer to the different customer so as to ensure that the challenges that the previous customer faced are resolved or minimized in the new customer? And that's a common question. It's not only in financial domain, but any industry, any customer would ask that question, right? So that we take the experience from one customer and ensure that we don't have a similar situation in a different customer. And that's where the overall MuleSoft professional services experience helps a lot. So these are the common questions that we should typically get. And based on this experience, we decided to create MuleSoft accelerators, which will help solve this particular problem. As I said again, and it's very important to note this, this is not a new connector or this is not a new product line from the company, but this is more of a combination of the experience and ability to solve a particular use case problem for a business scenario. And we'll dwell more into that in the subsequent slides when we actually see what those assets are that are being offered as part of our accelerator package. Okay. So if you click on this particular slide, Ravi, right? So it is not only a business process flow, but it's a combination of different APIs. By APIs, I mean the overall API-led view. And if you are familiar with MuleSoft, you would be familiar with the experience process system layered API view that MuleSoft promotes, the different integration templates, the reference architectures, and additional technical assets. Right. So if you look at it from customers starting to implement a new engagement on MuleSoft, right, whether they are doing it on their own or working with the partner ecosystem, typical cycle that they would be going through would be the architectural cycle, then the design and the development and the testing cycle, right? There's a lot of effort that we needed to be spent in the architecture and design stages, especially around understanding the different fields, the different scenarios, the different possible implementations, how we can architect the solutions, etc. Right? The reference architectures that are being offered as part of this accelerator package, they kind of bake in all the experience. For example, loan origination system. How can a customer Or how can a customer who is working in a banking domain reduce the overall loan origination time from say 7 days to 1 hour, right? That's a typical business problem that is being solved currently. We do have reference architectures that do illustrate the real-time need of unlocking the data and how we can provide this end-to-end solution to solve this particular business problem. So what we have now is a reference architecture implementation for loan origination system. Along with that, we move to the design stage. We have an API-led view of how this implementation can be achieved. Go to the next stage. We have the overall mappings of how this data can be unlocked and how this data can be mapped between two different systems that can be used in the. Obviously, we do not have the mappings and the implementations for all the possible scenarios or all the possible systems that the customer might have in the landscape. But the way we are approaching this is we're trying to look at the most commonly and widely used banking and financial systems and trying to create an API-led view for those particular systems. And if you're able to cover that market share, I think the rest would be more of a customization on top of it to align to your specific needs or align to a specific customer landscape, right? So at least the reference implementations and the experience is baked in this initial templates and documentation that we provide as part of these accelerators. Okay. If you move to the and on top of it, right, this is very important, right? This does not come at any additional cost. You will not be surprised to see any additional line item in the contract or SOW or anywhere else the pricing model, but this comes included as part of the MuleSoft subscription. This is available to view and download as well on the exchange. If you have access to any point exchange, you can very well see this, and you can, once you go to the individual accelerators, we can also point out to the links of those individual accelerators where and how we can see that. Right on the right hand side, you're able to see a small snapshot, and that references to the exchange view and what are the different accelerators available in exchange. If you move to the next slide, Ravi. Yeah. So what are the real benefits of MuleSoft accelerators, right? So again, referencing back to my previous statement, the MuleSoft accelerators are based off the experience, the lessons learned, and the multiple large implementations that we have done over a period of time. So this reduces the overall implementations that we need to do at a customer side, right? Just take an example, right? There's a new customer or a prospect who is interested in implementing a loan origination system for their overall business needs. If they were include the MuleSoft accelerators as part of their subscription and they download and install it at their premises, they do get the reference implementations, the reference architectures, and they already have a jump start in terms of what they want to achieve. With this, they would be able to have some percentage, and I do not want to quote any percentages here, but they would have some percentage jumpstart, obviously, which help them fast track and reduce the overall time to market in terms of offering that product offering to the end customers, to their end customers, to the business, to the market. So that way, they are not only being ahead of their business vision, but also trying to compete with a similar line of customers that they are competing with in this industry, right? And that really helps them gain that edge, competitive edge over their competitors. Offer the ability to extend and change, right? So these accelerators are a set of predefined guidelines and experience that we have built. That does not mean that it is limited to the functionality that it can do today. Yes, you always have the ability to align that accelerators to your landscape, to your customized needs. You can start building on top of it and create your own version of that accelerator and leverage it across your premises that suits the systems, the applications that you might have, and the specific business needs that you might have, right? And that basically the ability that we offer, right? So the entire code base or the API-led view would be available for you to customize and play around with it, right? And obviously this is the best practice approach, right? So typically if you see, for especially for the large customers, right, there is more amount of turnaround time being spent on what's the best way of implementing this, what are the different reference architectures, which one to prefer, what are the pros and cons of each architecture, right? So here you have a guideline already set in place, and that helps in your decision making as well and helps you move faster in your overall timelines, right? So this is a best practice approach right from the architecture phase to the implementation phase that's already made available based on the overall experience that MuleSoft has. And this is something which is available for you for your usage. So if you look at the overall disruption in the market, and especially in the banking industry, right? Banking industry leads the overall disruption, and the focus is shifted from like more towards the customer initiatives, right? So how do we obtain the different data for a customer and have that available in single pane and be in ability to provide that real time to the customer, right? Depending on what his ask is, right? So by doing this, we are obviously experiencing more customer retention and experiencing loyalty with the customer, right? This is the overall vision of the customer 360, right? We are helping them in their day-to-day operations around the banking and finance industries and helping them leapfrog from what they were doing like several months or years back and helping them get a jump start in their overall banking initiatives, right? And they have everything at their fingertips now, right? With the real-time availability of data. They can access their own bank accounts and look at the current account balance or the savings account balance, everything through single mobile phone utility, right? So that's what is the overall benefit of the accelerators, and this is how the accelerators will help in your day-to-day journey, which in turn will help the end customers, right? So that's the overall goal that we want to achieve. Yeah. So now we'll talk about the use case one, right? And there are three total use cases that, as Ravi mentioned in the beginning, right? One is around the customer account sync. So this is the very first accelerator that we started as part of our accelerator vision. And what this does is, right, so from a customer perspective, right, most of the data could be available within multiple different banking systems. How do we retrieve the real-time information from a core banking system? So if you look at this particular example of account sync, there are two different systems highlighted here. One is the core banking system, which is FIS, and other is the engagement platform or the FSC, the Financial Services Cloud System. And there are a set of APIs built in between that helps in a unidirectional sync between FIS and FSC. Let me tell you something about FSC, right? Financial Services Cloud is different from, say, a Salesforce Sales Cloud or a Services Cloud, right? It's different in the way its data model is created and the way the dashboards bring in the real value of FSC to the end customers, right? The data model is not straightforward, right? What is it that I need to do to understand the data model and really do my day-to-day mappings required from a design perspective? That all aspects are covered as part of the API review and the APIs that we already provide as part of these accelerators. So the standard mappings are already baked into these APIs, and that's going to add as a real value add to our customers who will be leveraging these particular accelerators. So in this context, if you look at the account sync between FIS and FSC, so this is a one direction sync of the, say, the current account or the checking account or the savings account between the core banking system FIS and FSC, so that customers can go through the engagement platform or through the mobile devices or any other platform and try to view at the real-time view of their account information, right? This helps in supporting the overall customer 360 view, and that's the core vision that we are targeting, right? And this is kind of a head start for us from an accelerator perspective, and the way we enrich these accelerators and the subsequent accelerators that we have used, like for example customer onboarding, etc. This is the basis of all this information, right? Whom do we really target for these accelerators, right? So it's targeted for the small, medium, and large banks, as well as for the credit unions as well, right? Who have a requirement for doing a unidirectional sync between two different systems. Now, again, as I mentioned, in this current context, it talks about a unidirectional sync between FIS and FSC. Does it really mean that I cannot use this for any other customer where I have different set of systems? The answer is not really. You can obviously use these accelerators for any other customer because, as I mentioned, there are two key attributes to these accelerators. Number one, the connectivity aspect with FIS, the connectivity aspect with FSC. And second, the most important is the reference architecture and the different API-led views and the data mappings that are already baked into the individual APIs. That also comes as part of these accelerators. As long as we are aligning to the standard financial services data model and we are using the standard and consistent models across multiple different customers, I think these accelerators will really add as a good jumpstart. If there are specific scenarios wherein you mentioned that, hey, I'm using some legacy systems and I have a completely customized proprietary data model, will I be able to use it? Maybe not. And those scenarios it will not really apply. But again, how are you really unlocking the data and providing the real-time view from those existing systems? Because there are inherent challenges in itself, right? That's where we have to leverage MuleSoft and the accelerators to unlock the data and bring out the real-time sync, which will help benefit our customers and in turn their end customers, right? From an overall integration and core banking solution perspective. And if you look at the bottom of this particular slide on the right side, where to find it, that is a link that we have provided for the MuleSoft Accelerator for financial services for the customer account sync. And just as a reference point, it all points to any point exchange. So as long as you have access to exchange, you can go there and look at this particular asset, download it, play around with it. If you move to the next slide, yeah, thanks. This is around the customer onboarding, right? And if you look at, if you recap several years back, customer onboarding itself was a big challenge, right? So it used to take around, say, 7 days to a month to onboard a new customer for a large banking, on a large banking enterprise, right? So nowadays, given the demand of real time and the overall disruption that is occurring in the industry, the customer expectations have grown multifold, right? They don't expect to wait for a month to get onboarded into a new bank, right? They expect that to happen in hours, minutes, seconds, right? Everything they need is at the fingertip. How can we reduce the overall duration of onboarding a customer from a prospect to a customer in hours or less than that is a key. And every customer, every banking customer in the industry today is striving to achieve that, right? And that's where the competitive edge comes in play here. So if you look at the customer onboarding refers to how I can onboard a prospect to a client. So it could involve multiple different stages while onboarding, right? I might have to retrieve certain documentation, have him fill up some application forms, look at his current credit score, and look at whether he's an existing customer looking for a different feature set within the bank or is a completely net new customer. There are multiple different attributes that are needed for us to verify before we really onboard the customer, right? And then also understand what is the key reason why he wants to onboard. Is he only looking for a checking and savings account, or is he looking for a loan? Or depending on that, we would interact with the loan origination system as well, right? That's the LOS system that we have on the right bottom there, right? So there are different interactions that we might have as part of the onboarding, right? And as you can see in this API-led view representation, right, all those interactions are already covered. So the standard business process for onboarding a customer from a prospect to a client, right, depending on what we understand from an industry perspective, are all covered, right? So we already have an integration built in with Equifax for verifying the credit score. We already have an integration with FSC for the engagement platform where the customer would start engaging and start looking at his information from all the documentations that he might have to submit for justifying his account onboarding will be stored in DocuSign, which is a document management system. Then there is an existing inbuilt integration with the line loan origination system as well. And all these integrations are already built in, and this helps any new banking customer who are planning to reduce the overall turnaround time for onboarding a customer already have a very good jump start, right? So this really helps in any new customers, and especially the small medium customers who are trying to create their headway into this industry. It really helps them a lot, right? So if you look at why this use case is important, yes, it supports a 360 view. It helps in streamlining and automating the customer onboarding process. It helps already pre-existing integration with DocuSign as well as with Equifax and with the loan origin system as well. And again, the same conversation repeats here, right? What we had in the previous use case. If there are different systems that your customers that you're working with they have, or different landscape, yes, this will certainly help in giving you a reference implementation of how it can be achieved from a business process perspective. However, this will also Sorry. However, this will also help in integrating with the existing system, assuming that the customer already has Equifax for the credit scoring system. Boom, you're all set, right? All you have to do is, you know, deploy that accelerator to your landscape, and it's ready to integrate. Change some connectivity parameters, it's ready to integrate with Equifax, right? And then look at the data model mappings, etc. Ensure that they align with your requirements, and boom, you're all set and go. Yeah. So again, where to find this? Same exchange page is where you can go and retrieve this particular accelerator for your further study and usage. Okay. This is the third accelerator that we have very recently launched, and this is one of the important accelerators that we have built, right? This obviously stands on top of the existing ones that we have built, because the initial one that I mentioned, the account sync, that is a foundation for the core banking accelerator, right? Ravi, if you click on the next slide, yeah. So if you see, right, this is mainly what we're doing from a core banking perspective is any activity that an individual or a customer who wants to be a customer of large bank, right? He is interested in achieving with that particular bank. It could be in terms of current account, savings account, or any other loan or any other system that he wants to do, right? There are different touch points that he will have to go through from a core banking perspective that he will be able to achieve as part of this accelerator, right? And this basically, you can see more or less the similar systems here, like loan origination system, the DocuSign document management system. We have the credit score system from a customer onboarding perspective, and then we extend that to the core banking foundation, right? From a day-to-day, real-time, real-world scenarios, right? What is it I would need? I would have to deal with my credit card system, right? How I can get the real-time information about what's my balance on the credit card, what is my current charges, what are the outstanding charges on my credit card system, from a banking perspective, right? What's the outstanding amount, or what's the balance in my current or savings account, right? What is the interest I'm getting, etc., right? All those information I can capture at my fingertips, right? That's the engagement platform. If you see at the top, right, on top of the core banking foundation, that's the engagement platform, FSC, the financial services cloud, that will help you get all this information in real time, and that really benefits the end customer, and he or she would be more inclined to move towards a banking institution who offers these services at a real-time fashion. Right? So this is something that we have recently launched, and we have deployed this at few customers as well for MuleSoft, and we are trying to enrich this as we speak and bring in more enhancements and more business process introduction as part of these accelerators, so that they can be leveraged, and the real value of unlocking the data from the underlying systems can be achieved and can be used at most of our customer sites. So I'm not sure if there are any questions on the any of the specific accelerators that we spoke, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind taking a pause and answer any specific questions that you might have. Because what I'm planning to share next is what's our roadmap, what's our priorities that we are targeting for in the subsequent financial year.
Hey Aniket, I have a question here. On this slide, on the top right corner, we have that small icon, and probably it's a gray color icon, right? So, does it mean that this accelerator provides some asset for the consuming app as well, or UI app as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's, you're looking at the one in the center.
Yeah, just next to the mobile sign
Yeah, that's the
icon.
FSC, right? That's FSC, Financial Services Cloud. So if you look at the bottom from third from the left, right, that's the FSC system. So that is nothing but an engagement platform, right? That's Salesforce's Financial Services Cloud. So it basically offers the real-time date view of the data, and there are multiple dashboards that you can view in terms of your current stack of your accounts, say current account or credit card information or savings account, right? And you get all this information in real-time fashion, right? So that really helps from a customer experience perspective. So yes, that particular integration is also already built in and is being offered as part of this core banking foundation accelerator.
I think that's excellent because so far other accelerator talk about the Mule component of it, API specification, reference architecture, etc.
Correct.
With this one, it's been the Lightning component part offered as a part of accelerator will again give a jump start for our customers to start building their UI part or engagement platform. So
Exactly, absolutely, and that was the intention, right, Ravi? So thanks, you brought this point. Really important because yeah, I mean, there are two things that you would do from a customer perspective. One is obviously unlock the data, right? So there are multiple different systems, multiple legacy systems that you might have in your ecosystem. How do I unlock that data and really bring that value to my end customers in real time, right? That's the key. If I'm not able to bring that customer 360 view to my end customers, there's no point of having, multiple automated systems in the ecosystem, right? So that's the real key, and that's the real basis on which we have built this accelerators, right? So we have targeted those high value, high potential accelerators or business scenarios and converted that into accelerators. So that's the thought process.
thanks for answering that, Aniket.
Sure. So do you want to move to the next slide? Yeah, perfect. Thanks. So now that I have an overview of what I have as part of my accelerators that I can leverage, sorry, let us look at how I can extend these accelerators, right? So there are multiple scenarios or multiple questions that somebody might have. Okay, I have this accelerator from MuleSoft that comes as part of my subscription. Is it ready for me to start deploying in my ecosystem and start running with it? The answer is all depends on the specific. Sorry, the answers really depends on the specific requirements, right? So I would not go ahead and make a statement that says yes, you can just deploy this in ecosystem and you're all up and running. But you'll have to first assess the requirement that we have, assess the system that you're wanting to integrate with, assess the data model that we have in your ecosystem. Because most of the cases, right, while we use a standard financial services model for our interactions or integration between different systems, there are certain specific needs that you might have that you want to achieve to align with your legacy systems as well, right? So there are some specific attributes that you might be exchanging. So that's an enhancement that you would have to do within these accelerators to ensure that the jumpstart that is being offered by these accelerators really helps solve your business needs or your business requirement, right? So that's one thing that you need to note, right, while you're extending these accelerators or working with your end customers, right? I mean, I see there are few stakeholders as part of this meetup who are working with partner resources as well, right? So when you work with the end customers as part of a partner organization, I think that's an important element that you need to communicate so that we understand what the ask is or the requirement is, and we leverage that and extend this accelerator so that it really suits the business requirement from the customer, right? And that will help unlock the data from the multiple backend systems. And there are already some systems that we spoke about, right? And we are planning to extend this for additional systems like Jack Henry, Temenos, etc., right? So that we have a wider range of systems that we can offer as part of the financial services organization. But all said and done, focus, the key is the same, right? To realize the pain points or the commonly used use cases as part of a business process and help unlock the value from those backend systems and provide the data to the end customers as part of the customer 360 vision or in real time, right? That's the key. That's the objective that we as a company and we as part of this accelerator initiative are trying to strive, right? How do I really customize those assets for my specific needs, right? I mean, that's a very specific question, and that depends from customer to customer, right? So assets can be leveraged, right? If you think that, hey, this is something that I can just deploy and use as is, yes, they can very well be done, right? Whether it's the API specification, the template, those are more reference documentation that's built based on experience. So this they can be leveraged as is. The only thing where you might have to customize certain things would be in the specific those API-led views, right? And the data models and the connectors, right? The connectivity aspect of it with the end systems, right? That's something that you'll have to do a little bit of work on based on your customer, specific requirements, right? And that's how you can leverage this for your needs, right? So that's a critical aspect that you need to be aware of.
Okay, sure. Aniket, let me take a quick detour over here. I would like to showcase the exchange for our audience.
Mhm.
And this is for one of the use case that we talked about, core banking foundations. This is a API-led connectivity approach that's been followed. And using this, can you please explain, like, if we have to replace one of the core banking system that's been represented over here with another core banking system, how easy it would be, and which layer of the API-led connectivity that would we would make the change to? In the same lines, let's say instead of the engagement FSC being the engagement platform, it is some custom application that they have developed, the UI application. Then where and what kind of changes we have to make?
Very good question, Ravi. So I mean, this the whole premises is based on MuleSoft's philosophy of API-led view, right? And that really helps in solving this particular problem and seeing how we can create a very good jumpstart, create that level of modularity in the different APIs that we built, right? So, as you can see, this is an example for the customer onboarding, wherein I'm trying to work with the customer to convert him from a prospect to a client, right? So there are different stages that I might have to go through with the customer. That includes this documentation effort, right, to provide evidence for what his current credit score is, etc. Right. So you will have integration with the DocuSign, you will integration with the credit scoring system, the loan origination system, etc. Right. So those are the systems that are depicted below the system API layer at the bottom most, right? So as you mentioned, right, customer may or may not have a specific set of these systems. They could have different systems, obviously. But if you look at it from a philosophy perspective, they need to have a loan origination system. It could be XYZ or APC or any other system. They need to have some kind of credit scoring system, either Equifax or some other system, right? So as long as we are aligning with that approach, this overall business process that starts from a customer, where his customer is at the top here, trying to engage through the engagement platform, the experience APIs, and then there's some business process orchestration that happens at the process API level, which deals especially with the data model and the different scenarios around the customer. When it comes to the level of system APIs, right, that's where you are having that connectivity aspect with the end system, be it Equifax or Documentum, or any other system. So if you have a different system in your landscape that you would want to replace, all you will have to play around with is the system API for that particular system. So if you look at, if you are able to highlight on the rightmost API there, right, next to the system APIs block, yeah, so that's the only API that you are able, that you would need to change in case you have a different credit scoring system other than Equifax, right? And even if you look at it more granularly within the system API, there are typically two aspects to the API. One is the interface or the contract that the system API exposes to the process API. That's at the top. That's northbound. And southbound is where you have the actual connectivity with Equifax within the system API layer. That's however the API is being built. So all you would need to change is the southbound connectivity with the newer system, ensure that the new system aligns with the already defined data model, and you should be able to plug that new API into this ecosystem, and the rest all remains as is, right? So nothing changes from this API layer view. Likewise, you'll have to do an assessment of, okay, what are the different documentation systems or what are the different loan origination systems, etc., that we are using within our ecosystem, and just play around with those relevant system APIs. And you should be ready to run this overall business process for customer onboarding in your landscape.
So, Nikhil, just to confirm my understanding, because all these assets have been developed using API-led connectivity approach, it's
Correct.
very easy to extend it to any other system, whether it's a different core banking system than what it provides out of the box. Quite easy to replace one of the system API with a new API, and rest
Absolutely.
all of the functionality would still remain the same. This
Absolutely.
similarly, if they replace, they have different UI system developed in-house or a different UI system that they leverage, they could still develop a separate experience API for that purpose. But underlying, they would be leveraging the same process APIs, same system APIs, and that's
Correct.
where they would get a kickstart to their building the solution.
Correct. So UI, right? That's basically that comes at the top, right? So all you need to do is nothing changes from the experience, process, and system APIs that you already have in place. All you need to do is, while you're building this UI for specific needs requirements, build an experience API that already goes and takes the data from the built-in process APIs, which in turn interacts with the system APIs, and you have all the data that you need for your requirement.
Awesome, awesome. I think that clarifies a lot of my doubts. Appreciate
Sure.
that.
Sure.
So let's go back to the presentation. Okay, over to you.
Correct. I would like to now talk about the FY23 priorities and a small disclaimer here. These are the current priorities that we have in play today based on what we understand from the market, what we understand from the industry, and we have an extensive solutions team that is working with the internal as well as the field members as well as the end customers to refine these priorities, right? So there is possibility that these priorities could change depending on where the industry moves, but this is what we currently have as part of our roadmap for the priorities, right? So I will quickly touch upon them in terms of what we have, and then we can always go to exchange say after 3 months or 6 months and see what the announcement that we're making to the existing APIs as well as what new APIs that we are introducing from use case perspectives. So at a high level, right, just to summarize, right, we have three main top accelerator use cases that we want to target. Payment modernization, right? So as you can see, the three accelerators that we delivered, payments modernization is not touched yet, right? Payments as well as in the insurance and the wealth and assets management, right? Those are the three areas that we want to focus on as part of this upcoming financial year and ensure that we build accelerators that targets these three industry areas as well, so that we are able to have an outreach across all the different industry segments, lines of business, so that we are able to help more and more customers solve their business problems. That's going to be our focus, and we'll have specific accelerators like customer onboarding that we already built. We want to introduce that in the insurance domain as well, and that will be our very first accelerator in the insurance domain. But we are trying to see how we can target the insurance industry with the customer onboarding for say policy administration, or how can I onboard a new customer to onboard or subscribe to my policies, right? So that's something that we are planning to target for the insurance industry. And then sometime in the time frame of May, we want to introduce the open finance consent and entitlement management, right? So this is kind of providing the ability for banks and insurance companies as well to capture the consent, right? And how we capture the consent from their clients, and then store that in the internal systems, showcase that to the additional third party systems if there is a need, right? But this is more around consent management and the different terms and conditions disclosures that we might have, right? How we are doing this for the banking industry. And then again, the month of July, if you don't mind, go back. Yeah, sorry. So we want to extend our core banking integration, right? I briefly mentioned about this earlier, but we want to extend the integration to Jack Henry as well as to Temenos and support this overall customer 360 initiatives with different systems as well. So this is more of the same accelerator that we have for core banking. However, we are trying to extend this with different systems. So from an API-led perspective, right, the similar question that Ravi just asked, right? What is it I need to do if I have different systems, say Jack Henry or Temenos, right? So we are trying to build in that accelerator as well as part of our repertoire, given the importance and given the widespread usage of Jack Henry and Temenos as well. So we want to just make sure that we have those as well as part of our accelerators. So that's something which is a focus for the H1 financial year 23. And then as part of the subsequent H2 financial year 23, we have additional focus on wealth assets management, right? And we want to start small with the customer onboarding scenario for wealth asset management this month of September, and then extend that subsequently, right? Depending on the focus or interest, right? And then we go on to the open banking and the open insurance, right? So those are the targeted accelerators that we have as part of our roadmap for FY23, right? And again, as I said, the disclaimer, right? This is something that we currently have in our plan, and we will inspect and adapt as situation as we learn something more from the industry trends.
Yeah. So just to add to that, folks, you can provide us a feedback, and we are trying to reach out to all our customers, trying to learn from them, see what systems they are mostly interested in connecting to, and adopt this particular roadmap. So that's where Aniket mentioned that it's not written in concrete as such, written in stone, but we might learn from a customer and adopt accordingly.
Correct.
It's time for Q&A now, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. That's right now the only way to ask your questions, and I'll read it out to Aniket, and Aniket would be responding. So we have one question, Aniket. So can you answer to that?
Sure. Yeah. So I see a question from Abhishek, and let me just reiterate the question, right? From a system API layer perspective, the system changes its integration contract. How do you upgrade the accelerator to meet the change? So this is more of maintenance uh, question that you're asking, right, Abhishek? So what, as I mentioned earlier, right? So what we have done is we have tried to bake in the standard industry model within our accelerators, right? So if there is a change to that industry model, it really means that we are changing this model specific for a customer. We don't maintain or enhance these accelerators for change in those models, right? So it's basically for a customer need, then I think the customer would have to install this accelerator in their premises and align the data model or the system layer to align to the requirements. And that's something I mentioned in the previous slides as well. If you're asking from an overall industry perspective, right, there are certain regulations that gets introduced, and we want to include that there is a standardized data model itself that the industry releases, then yes, that's a very valid point, right? Then we would be enriching or enhancing these particular layers, and that will cut across all the three layers, right, for the experience, process, and system, depending on what layer this standardized model is being used. Then there would be periodic maintenance to ensure that it is aligning to the latest and greatest industry standard model from a banking perspective.
And if I may add to that, Aniket, I mean, it's these accelerator and assets of the accelerator you could just download on your site, customize them, and publish it to your own exchange. From
Absolutely.
that point onwards, they act as any other APIs or integration that you build. If a
Correct.
contract changes at that point of a time, you would have to make the necessary changes on your side. Along with that, from a MuleSoft side, we would be releasing different versions of this accelerator with new use cases being added, some of the current use cases being updated. As and when that goes through that change, it's advised that you look at those new upgrades that have come out and see if you could need to leverage any of those assets as well. So the SDLC cycle, once you take those assets and start customizing it, it's according to your needs, and you're free to
Correct.
do whatever you it demands.
Correct. Thanks, Ravi.
Next question is that from Raja. He's asking if any of our current customers are using these accelerators.
Correct. Another great question. Yeah. So yes, we have a few customers who have already started to onboarding these accelerators, especially around the customer onboarding accelerators, right? And they are really seeing the value and benefit that these accelerators offer, right? Because that offers them a very good jumpstart, right, in terms of what they want to implement. And they thought about this business problem, right, today, and then they started discussing with MuleSoft, and they have this accelerator also that they can leverage, right? So from a incubation of the business problem to the realization of the business problem, right, the overall turnaround time is much lesser, right? And that's what they are realizing, and they are really appreciative about the value that is being offered. So it's not only from a product standpoint or integration solution standpoint that MuleSoft is able to help them, but from a business process or business problem realization perspective also, they see the value in MuleSoft.
So thank you, Aniket. Next question is from Abhishek. Abhishek is asking like it's more like a product or it's a solution, such that it will be releasing hot fixes or enhancement as well as for specific customers.
No, that is not accurate. So we don't do anything specific for a specific customer, right? So this is something, as I said, something built based on industry standard, something built based on industry experience that we have over several years. So if you have a specific need, then the customer would have to engage in modifying those accelerators and applying it for their specific needs. So we wouldn't be releasing hot fixes or enhancements time and over again, right? So no, this is a jumpstart that we are offering to you. Please download this and leverage it as per your needs.
Just to add to that, this is a solution that's been provided. If to given a reference example, it would be the metrics toolkit that we have, where our professional services team, based on their vast experience of working with various customers, have built those reusable assets, which you're free to use as you please by extending, by changing, and making modifications. When you talk about a product that's been offered from MuleSoft, it goes through the same life cycle as a solution, but product is supported by MuleSoft support team. You can raise requests to the support team, and the support team would help you address those problems. Whereas these accelerators are considered as solutions to give you a jump start. There are ways you could give feedback. One is you can give your feedback in the exchange itself, your comment, your concerns. There's also a way to in the exchange itself. There is an email address through which you can reach out to the team and express your interest, or even mention that you're looking forward to some other use cases through which we would be able to collect all that information from and see which one is really needed in the market, which will suffice a lot of our different customers' expectations, and we might even tweak our priorities for this year or the future years, future releases. Uh, but just to add to that, even though it's a solution, we would be having enhancements. So the one way to know about these enhancements is to always go to the exchange and find out those features, see the release dates. We are also releasing this information as a part of the newsletter as well. We talk about what new changes have been done to these different accelerators. So look out for those kind of emails. Okay, next one is from Rajesh, and Rajesh, I'm glad that this accelerator is something that you're of interesting to you, especially the open banking is in the roadmap. And again, when you talk about open banking, yes, there are a lot of things to consider, and we are building those assets, and you soon have access to those as well. Okay, Abhishek has a point. Well, so the intention behind this accelerator was to provide a common set of assets that would work with many, many different customers. It was not focused to a specific customer's needs. But we started doing this by offering connectivity to few underlying system, as Aniket mentioned, right? Right now, those three different use cases target few set of systems, core banking systems, or credit scoring systems, or document management systems. And in the future use cases that we have, we try to make it more diverse and trying to offer some connectivity to John Henry system and other system. That way, no, it would be an arsenal of different system APIs that have connectivity to underlying system, and then you can leverage it. Let's say there was a system that you connected to, but it's not for the banking, but for a WAM use case. Could still look at those assets and then reuse many of those APIs or components or flows inside of that for your use cases. Okay. Any other questions? We have an opportunity for one last question before we move on to the next topic. And again, folks, we would really appreciate if you go to the exchange and provide feedbacks to the exchange review section, or respond back to the customer. That way, we would learn more about what your actual needs are and what is in demand. That way, we could adopt to that. So, looking forward to that kind of review feedback from you guys. With that, let's move on to the